take a moment. Irmin Zweta, the Supervisor of Design Review and Historic Preservation, is here with me. Renee Brooks, Senior Planner, is here, as well as we do have Anthony Luis, who is from the Appraisal Division Manager at the Assessor's Office, who is available to answer questions on some of the tax calculations. As much as I am really good at helping with the scope of work and restoration work, I have worked closely with him to try and get all the financial information as accurate as I can, which is why we're back to you today one more time before going to council. So as you remember, we were here on March 12th when you reviewed our staff suggested revisions to the program and made recommendations to City Council. Since that meeting, we met with the County Tax Assessor's Appraisal Division, and the purpose of today's hearing is to update you on some financial implications of the program with two distinct state-mandated clarifications that require reevaluation prior to forwarding them to City Council, as well as to consider the revisions to the program rules and procedures. So I'm just going to do a quick short reminder of the program for the public and yourselves. As a short reminder, it is the Mills Act is a state law enacted in 1972 that allows owners of designated structures to enter into a contract with the city to offset the cost of maintaining historic resources through a reduction in property taxes. The participating owners typically receive 40 to 60% reduction in property taxes to restore and maintain their home. And it requires the county tax assessor to reassess the designated property. They use a capitalization method, which is using the rental value of the property rather than the traditional assessed valuation method. So our community adopted the program in 2009, joining 90 other California communities that participate in the program. We have over 500 designated resources that qualify to participate in the program, and we currently have 35 active contracts with 5 more that will be under contract starting in January. The program does fulfill a general plan objective to provide government incentives for historic preservation, and under our existing rules and procedures, contracts have a term of 10 years that automatically renew and extend the agreement in perpetuity unless notice of non-renewal is filed. The program also currently has a total assessed value of $1.5 million to participate unless the council grants an exception. This applies to both residential and non-residential properties, and due to the high values in Santa Barbara, council has granted 9 exceptions to this limit since 2010, including 1 commercial property at 1029 State Street. The limit was originally established by council to control the amount of tax revenue loss and to allow more property owners to participate, but that has actually deterred many commercial and residential properties from even applying because they're over the limit with our high property values. And we have a total maximum program revenue loss of $300,000 was the original established value. So the average annual revenue loss to the city per contract is about $1,200. With 35 contracts now in effect, the annual revenue loss to the city in 2018 was about $46,000. And total cumulative since it was adopted through 2018, the total loss has been $150,000. So here's a chart that shows how the program, if it is continued to operate as it has, it'll continue to lose an estimated additional $10,000 per year in property tax revenue on top of the 46. So, and it runs in perpetuity as it stands. So next year it'll be 56,000, then 66,000 piling on top and accumulating would be 1.5 million by 2030. So you can see we could potentially hit the current program limit by 2021. So when we were here before, Finance Committee made the following recommendations: to limit the Mills Act contracts to the 10-year term with an option to renew with a new scope of work under the annual limit cap, increase the maximum assessed value property values to $2.5 million for single unit residential and $3 million for commercial multi-unit residential, establish an annual limit rather than a program revenue loss, and develop application ranking criteria that provide a preference for properties to participate in for commercial properties to participate in the program. So the state mandate clarifications that we have discovered since we were here before you is that after the 10-year contract, if we do a notice of non-renewal, the assessor will not just stop the Mills Act. It will take 9 years to return it to full value, and the owner occupied single-family units do receive a greater Mills Act benefit than an identical commercial retail property or rental property because they have a higher capitalization rate.
I had a question on that. Can you explain how they have a higher cap rate, being that they a rental property will be creating income on it? So I'm just trying to understand why there's a difference.
I'm going to let our tax assessor, Anthony, will tell. Yes, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Lewis, Appraisal Division Manager for the Assessor's Office. So the reason why the capitalization rate is different is because the capitalization rate on a Mills Act property is prescribed in the statute. I don't have that off the top of my head, but it might have been footnoted in your agenda packet. Basically, the cap rate is derived the same way on both types of property, but the only difference is that on an owner-occupied single-family dwelling, we use a risk rate of 4% by statute. So that's added into other components included in that capitalization rate. For all other property types, the risk rate is 2%. So the higher the cap rate, the lower the value. So that being with non-owner occupied properties having a lower cap rate, it results in a higher value.
Thank you. The 4%, 2% is what I had missed from the staff report. Thank you.
I think that might have been Section 439.3 of the California Revenue and Taxation Code. Is that the footnote you're referring to?
It would be close to that statute. That or let's see. I printed out the statute in case. I think the statute you referred to is the statute on non-renewal, but it's actually 439.2 is the statute that tells the assessor how to calculate the capitalization rate.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just quickly go through the rest. So we also, with the 10-year term, we recommend limiting the contracts to 10 years unless additional restoration is proposed by the property owner. And as we said, after the contract is terminated, the assessor will gradually add the taxes back. So the first year is about 65% returned towards market rate. So that's the year the owners who aren't reapplying will see the most drastic results. And then it goes up over the next 8 years to the full market assessment. So we also, as mentioned, talked about raising the property values to accommodate the high property values in Santa Barbara. We're recommending $2.5 million for single unit owner-occupied residential, as 34 of the contracts of the 35 that we have are under $2.5 million. So it seemed like they were right in that range, and it'll allow a lot more residents to participate. $3 million for commercial and multifamily residential, as they have higher property values. And here's the graph that shows how the higher assessed valuation to participate will likely result in increased property tax revenue. However, we believe it'll be controlled if we just establish the maximum annual revenue loss. Staff recommends the maximum annual revenue loss to be $260,000 per year, as this is an extreme situation. If almost all the applications came in at the $3 million level, we anticipate we'll have a lot more mid-range properties, and that will allow us to have a lot of participation in the program. And this chart illustrates how the annual maximums would be by 2030 at the 1.5 million rate, the 2.5 million rate, and the 3 million rate. And then I do have, so as we said, the Finance Committee previously developed recommended developing the application ranking criteria that provided preference for commercial properties. We do think that increasing the maximum assessed property valuation may provide adequate incentive for owners of owners of commercial properties to participate. And so our recommendations are to require the Mills Act participants to provide the new 10-year rehabilitation plan prior to the notice of non-renewal. If the property owner does not provide that, the city will assume no more work is proposed and send a notice of non-renewal. Establish an annual limit of $260,000 in property tax revenue loss to the city. Increase the maximum assessed property value to $2.5 million for single unit residential and $3 million for commercial multi-unit residential. Eliminate the cap on the number of contracts per year, as we recognize that with the annual cap, it'll be a better means to manage the revenue loss and maximize the participation in the program, and clarify the other minor procedural aspects of administering the program as listed in the agenda report. And that concludes my presentation.
Any questions?
One question. Just so I'm crystal clear on this, so we have it's for 10 years, and then with these changes at the 10th year, unless they come in with further restoration, then we would do the opt-out, but then it would be gradually reduced over time. So a property would actually be in for 19 years, but year 11 through 19, it would gradually reduce.
That's exactly right. And that's what the main feature that changed from the last time we were here in our.
Okay, so
Not that it changed. We just weren't aware that's how it would work.
So the full 10 is, they get the full benefit for those 10, and then they have a reduction over 9, so it's 19 years.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions. We'll move to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment? Do we have any speaker slips? Feel free to come up and then we'll have you do those after the fact, but go ahead and get started. Even if you can, please keep your comments under 3 minutes or however long you need, less than that.
Adam Sharkey. I'm an architect and homeowner of a Mills Act property, 212 West Valerio, and I just wanted to comment. There we go. Sorry about that. So I just wanted to come and let the Finance Committee know that my family and I are strong supporters of the program. It's been great. We've invested a lot more in the property than we've saved through the taxes, but we love our neighborhood, and it's a great way to help sort of the homes continue to improve. And I think for Santa Barbara, just as an architect, seeing care taken with older homes and reinvestment in those homes and providing some incentive to do that, along with some controls of, having to have things go through HLC and other things are sort of burdens that the property takes on. So making sure there's some financial incentive, I think, is really good. I agree with the recommendations being made, especially the sort of raising of the limit, because with the price of homes in Santa Barbara, almost every home that would often need an exception then. And I think the other sort of recommendations all make sense as well. So happy to answer any questions from the kind of homeowner architect side of it, but strong proponent. And working with Nicole has been great. I'd just like to say, as a homeowner who needs to figure out these things, to know whether it makes sense. So appreciate all the city's efforts.
Can you please repeat your name? I think you said it before the mic.
Adam Sharkey, 212
address?
West Valerio, owner and architect at Blackbird Architects downtown.
Great. Thank you for coming in today. We appreciate it. Please come on up to the mic.
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Ross, my husband Adam Ross over here. We're owners of the Hunt Stombach House on 821 Cornell Street. And just would like to say that we're very grateful and appreciative for the opportunity to be one of the first homes to benefit from the Mills Act. I think it's a great program. Being a local business owner, it's really helped us be able to stay kind of on top of our restoration projects. And over the past 10 years, we've been able to complete a lot of projects, but we realize that being a caretaker of a historical house, for the past 15 years, we realize that the need for restoration never stops. And, we have a lot to do again. It's a wood house, beautiful house, and needs to be painted about every 4 to 5 years. And it just never kind of stops, and we love it, and are just extremely appreciative, and it really helps us out to be able to kind of keep up with everything.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at public comment? Seeing no one else, we'll go ahead and close public comment. I do want to mention we did receive correspondence from a few other homeowners who were participating, a Frank and Adrienne Corachet and a Jane Fleischman and Milton Love. So it seems like it's pretty universal that this is providing benefits that outweigh the cost to the city, both in terms of keeping these houses alive and vibrant and repairing structures. I know how expensive it is to repair some of these structures, and because of dry rot and window conditions and how much it costs to get those fixed, I think this is a really great program. So do we have a motion from anyone?
I'll move the staff recommendation, and I concur with Chair Dominguez's comments. Just want to add that while there is a reduction in property tax, the trade-off is that we're protecting our historic resources and thereby also protecting our neighborhoods, because we have a lot of historic neighborhoods, and that's a community priority as well. So I appreciate the extra time staff has put in, appreciate the assessor coming down, answer some questions, office, and glad to move the staff recommendation.
Thank you. I'll just make brief comments expressing my support for this as well. I know we ask a lot from our neighbors in terms of upkeep, in terms of beautifying our neighborhoods, and this to me is a real opportunity for us as a city to partner with you and to make that clear that we do want that partnership and that we're in it with you. I also just want to say how much I support this change to do a graduated reduction. I always am a bit wary when neighbors are going to face a big change in any type of tax that they have to deal with, and I think this is a way to mitigate that burden, and I'm really happy with this change and with all the work that you've all put in, and I will be supporting the motion as well.
Great, thank you. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
So that's unanimous. So thank you, staff, particularly Ms. Hernandez. All the comments I've heard from people working with you both today and in the past on historic issues are just great. It's a great reflection on you and our staff and our city. So keep up the great work. And Ms. Unzueta, thank you for being here as well. You're also a very treasured member of our staff. Slightly, a lot of your job duties don't relate to historic structures, but that complements the historic gems that make Santa Barbara what it is. So thank you very much. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.